The storm howled across the alien landscape, shaking the research outpost to its core. Lightning tore through the violet sky, illuminating the twisted vegetation below. Lieutenant Ethan Hope stood by the window, sensing something wrong in the air. Something's not right. A frantic voice crackled through the COMM system. Chivers, overcom sir, you need to see this. Seismic readings are off the charts in Sector 7. Ethan felt the unease deepening inside him. Without hesitation, he grabbed his environmental suit and gave the order. Ethan, decisively, we're not waiting. Prep the rover, we're heading out now. After a rough journey, they reached a massive sinkhole, and beneath it, strange light emitted from a buried structure. As they explored further, they discovered a small creature with blue fur and glowing eyes. Ethan, whispering, what is that? Why do I feel like I'm meant to protect it? Moments later, the entire chamber collapsed. Without thinking, Ethan scooped up the creature and kept it safe. As they returned to the base, he felt its heartbeat syncing with his own. An inexplicable connection had formed, and everything was about to change. But this is just the beginning. The tiny creature grows at an alarming rate, becoming a terrifying predator, and the bond between Ethan and the creature Cobalt forces them to face ancient powers that will test everything they know. Ethan and Cobalt must decide, harness the growing power, or let it destroy everything they hold dear. The storm rages with unrelenting fury, hammering the research outpost from all directions. The wind howls like the wailing of some unseen force, its sharp cries slicing through the thick air. The rain, acidic and thick, falls in torrents, eating away at the metal walls of the station, as if the very planet itself is rejecting their presence. Violet lightning streaks across the sky, illuminating jagged, twisted silhouettes of alien vegetation that sway violently, as if bowing to the storm's will. Lieutenant Commander Ethan Hope stands in the observatory, his gaze fixed on the tempest outside. His breath fogs up the glass of the viewport, but he doesn't seem to notice. His thoughts are miles away, lingering on the unease creeping through his chest. There's something off about tonight. The storm is more than just weather, it feels like something is waiting, pressing in from all sides. A heaviness that seems to thrum beneath the surface of everything, as though the land itself is alive, watching him. Ethan, to himself, voice low, almost as if afraid of breaking the silence, there's something strange about tonight, something I can't quite place. Just as the words escape his lips, the comms crackle to life with an urgent voice. Chivers, overcoms, voice sharp and nervous, sir, you need to see this. Seismic readings are off the charts in Sector 7. Ethan's frown deepens, and without a second thought, he grabs his environmental suit. The urgency in Chivers' voice is enough to erase any lingering hesitation. Ethan, gruffly, already sealing his helmet, let's head out. We don't wait for the weather to clear. The storm's wrath intensifies as they race through the barren, alien terrain in the rover. The vehicle's chassis shakes under the pressure of the wind, but its reinforced body holds steady, biting through the rocky, uneven landscape. The roar of the storm drowns out all sound but the hum of the rover's engines and the occasional crack of lightning illuminating their path. As they approach the coordinates, the storm grows ever fiercer. Sheets of acid rain pour down, hammering the rover's shell with a relentless, rhythmic fury. It's like driving through the heart of a hurricane on an alien world, a place where nature seems to turn against those who dare enter it. Chivers points through the windshield, his face pale and tense. Chivers, wide-eyed, voice shaking, sir, look at that. Ethan squints through the rain-smeared windshield. Ahead, the ground is splitting open. A massive sinkhole has formed, its edges jagged and unnatural. The roar of the storm is almost deafening, but in the stillness that surrounds the sinkhole, something is almost alive beneath the surface. It's a faint shimmer, an iridescence that doesn't belong in such a desolate, storm-stricken place. Ethan, eyes narrowing, voice a whisper of disbelief that's not natural. They approach cautiously, the rover's lights cutting through the darkness as they near the sinkhole. Ethan's heart pounds louder with each passing second, a strange pull in his gut telling him that whatever is down there, it's far beyond their understanding. The storm rages overhead, but it feels almost like an afterthought compared to the mystery below. The air seems thicker here, heavier, as if holding its breath in anticipation. They stop a safe distance away, tethering themselves to the rover as they approach the sinkhole on foot. The hole seems endless, a cavern that looks to have been carved out by something unnatural, the edges lined with smooth obsidian-like walls that glow faintly from within. There's a low hum in the air, a vibration that seems to come from the very ground itself. Chivers, whispering in awe, voice trembling, "What is this? Ancient tech, maybe? But it's not like anything we've seen before." Ethan doesn't respond at first. His eyes are locked on the shimmering glow deep within the hole, a growing sense of urgency building in his chest. It's as though something or someone was waiting for them to arrive. As they descend carefully into the chamber, the air grows colder, a chilling stillness that seems to seep into their very bones. The walls, like polished stone, seem to absorb the light around them, pulling it into a deep, unnatural darkness that feels both ancient and alien. A strange sense of reverence fills the air, as though they are stepping into the sacred remnants of a civilization long lost to time. In the far corner of the chamber, a tiny creature stirs. No larger than Ethan's palm, it cowers in the shadows, its fur a vibrant blue that shimmers with an ethereal glow. Its ice blue eyes, luminous and intelligent, stare up at him, white and unblinking. "Ethan," whispering, a sense of awe creeping into his voice, "what is that?" The creature makes a faint noise, like a low, delicate cry, as if it's pleading for help. A trail of glowing blue fluid leaks from a wound on its flank. Ethan feels an overwhelming need to protect it, as if their fates were somehow tied together in that moment. Before he can react, the ground shakes violently, and the chamber begins to collapse. The walls crack, the air rumbles with an unnatural force. "Ethan," shouting urgently, voice tight with panic, "we need to go now." They scramble back to the rover as the chamber implodes, the shockwave rattling the vehicle with a deafening crash. Ethan's heart races as the tiny creature squirms in his pouch, its heartbeat racing in sync with his own. As they speed back to the base, a strange connection blooms between them, a bond that feels far more significant than either of them could comprehend. Back at the base, the science team is eager to examine the creature, but Ethan can't shake the feeling that there's more to this small, blue being than anyone realizes. "Ethan," to himself, whispering as he carefully cradles the creature in his hands, "what are you? And why do I feel like I was meant to find you?" The storm outside continues its relentless assault, the wind howling as sheets of acid rain pour down in violent torrents, pelting the outpost with a fury that seems endless. Inside the research station, the walls tremble as the howls of the tempest seep through the reinforced metal. The air is thick with the scent of ozone, the oppressive weight of the storm making every breath feel heavy. Lieutenant Commander Ethan Hope stands alone in the observatory, his visor reflecting the violet lightning that dances across the sky. He stands motionless, his face set in grim determination, but there's a look in his eyes and unease that has settled in the pit of his stomach. The sudden crackling of the intercom breaks his trance. It's Specialist Chivers, voice tinged with unease. "Chivers," over the comms, voice urgent, "Sir, you need to see this. The seismic readings, they are off the charts. Something's happening in Sector 7. Ethan's gaze shifts from the storm to the comms panel. His frown deepens. There's no hesitation in his response. He grabs his environmental suit from the rack and seals his helmet with swift precision, preparing to head into the unknown. Ethan, gruffly, already sealing his helmet, "Prep the rover. We're heading out." We don't wait for the weather to clear. With the storm intensifying outside, the two make their way to the rover. The sound of the rain is deafening, the vehicle's headlights cutting through the swirling darkness as they move into the heart of the alien landscape. The winds roar like an angry beast, tearing through the jagged, twisted terrain. The alien world they are navigating is a hostile one. Windswept valleys and towering, gnarled trees stretch out as far as the eye can see, their branches reaching like twisted fingers toward the sky. There's something wrong here. The land seems alive, breathing, shifting beneath them as the storm intensifies. The unrelenting rain falls in sheets, thick and acidic, battering the rover's reinforced exterior. The rover's wheels bounce violently over the rough ground, the storm's fury making the journey a harrowing one. The atmosphere outside is thick, almost suffocating, as if the air itself is charged with some unseen power. Through the windshield, Chivers spots something ahead, something that doesn't belong in this desolate world. The rover's headlights catch the edge of a massive sinkhole, the ground splitting open like a wound in the earth itself. Ethan's heart skips a beat as his eyes follow the path ahead. Chivers, shouting through the wind, voice barely audible there. It's a massive sinkhole. And there's something glowing beneath the surface. Ethan's brow furrows as he squints into the storm, his eyes narrowing. The glow from below isn't natural, it's too alive. His instincts are on high alert. He can feel it, like a pressure in the air that tells him this is no ordinary phenomenon. Ethan, voice low, tense, that's not natural. The rover comes to a screeching halt, a deep rumbling vibration shaking through the vehicle. They disembark, tethering themselves to the rover as they make their way toward the sinkhole. The air feels charged now, an electric buzz that hums in the back of Ethan's mind, making the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. The ground around them is unstable, and every step they take feels like it could be their last. The sinkhole looms ahead, its jagged edges like teeth biting into the earth. The walls of the hole seem impossibly smooth, covered in what looks like obsidian stone that shimmers faintly in the weak light. The air grows colder, and the hum intensifies as they approach the edge. The wind howls louder here, as if the very landscape is protesting their presence. Ethan's breath fogs in the air, and he feels the pull of the unknown drawing him closer to the edge. Ethan, whispering to himself, "What are you?" As they peer down into the hole, the glow grows brighter, and something moves in the shadows, tiny, small, almost imperceptible. But it's alive. Ethan's eyes widen as he catches sight of the creature, a small, blue, furry being that seems to shimmer in the low light. It's no bigger than his palm, its ice blue eyes glowing in the darkness as it cowers, injured and alone. Ethan, whispering, awe in his voice, "What is that?" Before he can reach for it, the ground beneath their feet trembles. The chamber surrounding them begins to collapse as the sinkhole widens, the sound of cracking stone and shifting earth filling the air. Panic surges through Ethan's veins as the chamber begins to cave in on itself. Ethan, shouting urgently, "We need to go now!" The two race back to the rover, barely making it in time as the entire structure collapses behind them. As they speed away from the danger, Ethan's chest tightens as the small creature squirms in the specimen pouch on his suit. Its tiny heartbeat races in sync with his own. What had started as a routine expedition had just taken a turn into the unknown. And whatever this creature was, Ethan knew his life and perhaps the fate of this alien world had changed forever. The storm's fury outside begins to wane, but the air within the research outpost is still thick with an uneasy tension. The faint hum of the base's systems serves as a constant reminder that the outside world, with its alien chaos, has seeped into their sanctuary. In the dim light of Ethan's quarters, the small creature rests, nestled on a soft towel on the corner of his desk. It's quiet, save for the soft sound of its breathing, which syncs eerily with Ethan's own. Ethan watches it closely, his eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and protectiveness. The tiny creature, which he has now named Cobalt for its striking blue fur, seems more fragile than ever, its sides rising and falling with each cautious breath. Ethan carefully sets down a small tray of water and protein rations, watching as the creature hesitates before taking a tentative sip. His hand lingers on the tray as he observes, fascinated by the intelligence reflected in those ice blue eyes that seem to shine with an inner light. There's something almost human about the way the creature watches him, as if it understands more than it lets on. The bond between them is undeniable, and Ethan can feel it pulsing in the air around them. There is a strange magnetism, a quiet pull that keeps him from walking away. The more time he spends with Cobalt, the more he feels that this bond is something beyond simple care for an injured creature. It's as if they are connected on a level he can't explain. As the creature finishes its water, it curls up on the pillow Ethan had set aside for it, its blue fur shimmering softly in the dim light. He sits back in his chair, still staring at the creature, a strange sense of wonder filling him. There's something in the air tonight, a quiet electricity that fills the room with a sense of anticipation. Ethan's fingers tap lightly on the desk as he watches Cobalt, his thoughts wandering. Why does he feel this strange sense of attachment to it? Why does he feel as if he was meant to find this creature, as if it were waiting for him? Ethan, to himself, voice barely above a whisper, what are you? Why do I feel like you've been waiting for me? His words hang in the air, unanswered. He doesn't expect an answer, but somehow, the creature seems to respond, its eyes flashing for a split second, as though it understood. In that moment, Ethan feels something shift within him. The storm outside may have subsided, but the storm within him is just beginning. Later that night, as Ethan drifts off to sleep, the room is quiet, too quiet. The soft sound of Cobalt's breathing fills the silence, but as Ethan closes his eyes, strange flashes flicker through his mind. He sees a vast civilization, green-skinned humanoids with silver hair standing beside massive blue-furred beasts. Ornate temples, towering spires made of living crystal, and creatures that stand guard with unwavering devotion. The images are vivid, yet fleeting, as if they were not his own memories, but someone else's. Ethan jolts awake, his heart racing. His eyes snap open, and he immediately turns to look at Cobalt, who is now nestled closer to him on the pillow. The creature's ice blue eyes meet his, and for a moment, there is an undeniable understanding between them. Ethan's pulse quickens as the realization hits him, the dreams, the visions, they were connected to Cobalt. Somehow, the creature was showing him something beyond this world, something ancient and powerful. And Ethan's connection to it was growing stronger with every passing moment. He reaches out tentatively, his hand brushing against Cobalt's soft, fur-covered side. The creature stirs, but it doesn't pull away. Instead, it leans into the touch, a silent acknowledgement that Ethan's presence is welcomed. The bond between them is now palpable, an invisible thread that tugs at Ethan's very core. For the first time since he found Cobalt, Ethan doesn't feel alone. He feels as though something larger than both of them is at play. But what? And why does he feel as though he is being drawn into something that he doesn't fully understand? With the storm outside now nothing but a distant memory, Ethan's mind races, wondering what the future holds. But one thing is certain, whatever happens next, he and Cobalt are no longer separate, they are bound by something far greater than fate. Ethan, whispering, his voice filled with awe, what are you, Cobalt? And why do I feel like I'm meant to be with you? The room grows quiet again, but Ethan doesn't feel the loneliness he once did. Instead, he feels an odd sense of comfort, as if he's on the precipice of discovering something monumental. Something that could change everything. The following weeks pass in a blur of activity, but the unease never fully leaves Ethan. The bond between him and Cobalt only deepens, a silent understanding passing between them that goes beyond words. The creature, once small and fragile, now towers above Ethan, its fur rippling with muscle, its once dominant predatory appearance becoming more evident with each passing day. The storm outside has long since settled, but within Ethan, there's a storm of his own. The connection to Cobalt grows stronger, the creature's movements more refined and calculated. Ethan finds himself unable to resist the pull. There is something within the creature that draws him in, a primal, unspoken connection that demands his attention at every turn. Cobalt watches him constantly, those piercing blue eyes always studying him, always reading his thoughts, as if they share a language that transcends time and space. Ethan, in turn, has become more protective of Cobalt than he ever thought possible. The creature's growth is both impressive and alarming. It's no longer the small, fragile being he once found in the ruins, it's becoming something else entirely. One evening, as Ethan records his daily observations in his quarters, the door to his room slides open with a soft hiss. Captain Harrington stands in the doorway, his face grim. The tension in his posture is palpable, his eyes hard as stone. Harrington, sternly, Commander Hope. We need to talk. Ethan looks up, a frown tugging at his brow. The tone of Harrington's voice is enough to know this won't be a casual conversation. Ethan, setting down his recorder, standing to face him. What's going on, Captain? Harrington steps inside, his eyes flickering briefly to Cobalt, who's resting near the far wall. The creature's icy blue eyes narrow, tracking the captain's every movement, but it makes no move to approach. Harrington, coldly, you've been keeping it in here, haven't you? Earth Command has ordered the creature to be transferred to the research facility on Europa, and you've been hiding it from them. What's going on, Hope? Ethan's pulse spikes, and for a moment, the room seems to close in around him. His eyes flicker briefly to Cobalt, whose gaze remains fixed on him, unblinking. The creature seems to sense Ethan's growing anxiety, and the air between them crackles with a quiet intensity. Ethan, defensive, stepping toward Harrington. I'm not hiding anything. I've been caring for it, making sure it's stable. You've seen the reports, Harrington. It's not dangerous. Harrington's eyes harden, his stance unwavering. Harrington, shaking his head, you've grown attached to it. This is bigger than you, Commander. Earth Command has made their decision. They want it studied, not coddled. You're risking everything, and for what? A creature we don't even fully understand. Ethan's throat tightens, the weight of Harrington's words pressing against him. The bond he shares with Cobalt has clouded his judgment, he knows that. But he can't shake the feeling that there's more at play here. He feels the connection. It's undeniable. Ethan, almost whispering, a mix of frustration and confusion, there's something about it, something I can't explain. It's not just an animal, Harrington. It's... Before he can finish, the comms crackle to life, cutting through the tension. Specialist Chivers' voice comes through urgently. Chivers, over comms, panic in his voice. Sir. You need to see this. The seismic activity is off the charts again. And it's coming from the direction of the old ruins. Something's happening. Ethan's heart skips a beat. The unease in his chest flares up once more, stronger than before. He glances at Cobalt, whose eyes are wide and unblinking, as if sensing the same danger. Ethan, shouting as he strides toward the door, get the rover ready, Chivers. We're moving out now. The two rush out of the room, making their way quickly through the base. As they step into the harsh, artificial lighting of the outpost's main hallway, the hum of the storm outside is replaced by the eerie silence of the facility. The air feels thicker here, heavy with the weight of unspoken words. Cobalt trails behind them, its massive form moving with fluid grace, its eyes sharp and alert. As they reach the vehicle bay, Chivers is already prepping the rover. The comms crackle again, and Chivers' voice comes through, shaky but determined. Chivers, over comms, I'm picking up strange readings, seismic activity, yes, but it's almost like something reacting to our presence. This is no natural phenomenon, sir. Ethan's gut tightens. Something is wrong, deeply wrong. He feels it now, the connection between himself and Cobalt pulsing, guiding him toward a fate he's only beginning to understand. Ethan, shouting as he seals his helmet, lets go. The rover lurches forward, the harsh wind hitting them as they speed through the alien terrain. The landscape outside is a blur of shadow and light, the storm now nothing but a distant echo as they race toward the ruins. The vehicle bounces violently over the uneven ground, but Ethan's eyes remain fixed ahead. He knows something is coming, something far more dangerous than he can comprehend. And with every mile, the bond between him and Cobalt grows stronger. The rover shakes violently as it speeds through the alien landscape, the jagged terrain biting into its undercarriage. The storm that once battered the outpost seems to have followed them, its howling winds cutting through the landscape like a relentless beast. The only light guiding them forward is the harsh glow of the rover's headlights, cutting through the darkness as Ethan's heart beats faster with every passing second. Something is coming, something they aren't prepared for. As they approach the coordinates, the temperature drops suddenly, and the air grows unnaturally still. The storm's roar fades into an eerie quiet, the only sound now the hum of the rover's engines and the faint thrum of Ethan's heartbeat in his ears. Cobalt, seated calmly in the back of the rover, growls low in his throat, his ice blue eyes locked on the darkness ahead. Chivers, sitting beside Ethan in the front seat, eyes the screen in front of him, his brow furrowed in concern. Chivers, nervously the seismic readings are spiking, sir. Whatever's down there, it's not just the land moving. It's like something's alive. Ethan grips the wheel tighter, his jaw clenched. His instincts, honed over years of military service, tell him they are walking into a trap. But he can't back down now, not when Cobalt's presence is so tied to this place. The small creature has grown into a massive being in such a short time, its power growing exponentially with every passing day. And with it, so too has Ethan's connection to it. Ethan mutters to himself, we're not going to be able to walk away from this. Not after everything, not now. As they round a corner, the glow of something unnatural catches Ethan's eye. The ground ahead is cracked and open, a vast chasm stretching out before them. But it's not just the sinkhole that draws his attention. There, at the center, the ground seems to pulse, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. A faint hum vibrates through the air, sending a ripple through Ethan's body. He can feel that something is waking. Ethan, low, to himself, what is this? He brings the rover to a screeching halt at the edge of the chasm. The glowing light pulses again, the strange hum vibrating through the walls of the rover. Cobalt growls louder now, his hackles raised as if he can sense something Ethan can't. The creature's eyes flash with a fierce intensity as it locks onto the chasm ahead. Ethan doesn't need to say a word. He knows exactly what the creature is sensing. He unseals his helmet and nods at Chivers. Ethan, decisive, we're going in. Get the equipment ready. We need to see what's down there. Chivers hesitates for a moment, but then nods, grabbing the necessary tools. The rover's lights flicker, casting long, haunting shadows on the walls of the chasm as Ethan steps out into the bitter cold. The wind still howls, but it feels distant now, like the very air around them has shifted. The landscape is alien in every sense of the word. The trees, if they can even be called that, seem to twist unnaturally, their bark glowing with faint, phosphorescent light. The ground is cracked and barren, like something ancient has scarred the earth itself. Ethan takes a deep breath and adjusts his suit, stepping cautiously toward the chasm. As they approach the edge, Chivers begins scanning the area, his equipment beeping and humming in the silence. But it's not the technology that draws their attention, it's the sight before them. The chasm is not just a hole in the ground, it's a gateway, its walls lined with smooth, black obsidian-like stone that pulses with an inner light, casting strange shadows across the uneven surface. At the center of the chasm, buried beneath layers of rubble and stone, a massive, ancient structure lies hidden. Ethan's heart skips a beat. He's seen things like this in ancient texts, ruins, but never anything like this. The energy radiating from the structure is both mesmerizing and terrifying. It calls to him, pulls him toward it with a force he can't explain. His feet carry him forward almost instinctively, and when he looks back at Cobalt, he sees that the creature is already ahead of him, its massive form bounding toward the glowing ruins with purpose. As they descend into the chasm, the air grows thicker, charged with a strange energy. Every step feels heavier, as if the weight of the ancient place is pressing down on them. The structure beneath the earth is impossibly intricate, covered in alien symbols that seem to glow faintly, illuminating the darkness around them. Ethan's breath catches in his throat as they approach. Chivers, whispering, voice shaking, this isn't just old. This feels like it was meant to be hidden. Like it was meant to stay buried. Ethan doesn't respond. His eyes are fixed on the symbols etched into the walls, his mind racing. He feels the connection between him and Cobalt intensify stronger than ever. The creature's presence, its energy, pulses in time with the beat of Ethan's heart. They are in this together, whatever it is. The hum grows louder as they reach the heart of the structure. In the center of the chamber, a pedestal stands, ancient and worn. And resting upon it, shimmering softly in the dim light, is a small object. Ethan approaches slowly, his breath shallow, but it's not the object that catches his attention. It's the energy radiating from it, pure, raw power that feels both dangerous and inviting. Without thinking, Ethan reaches out, his fingers brushing against the surface of the object. A sudden shock of electricity runs through him, his muscles locking in place. a vision flashes before his eyes, vast, green-skinned humanoids standing before him, towering blue-furred creatures at their side, their eyes burning with ancient wisdom. The vision fades almost as quickly as it came, but the sensation remains. Ethan stumbles back, his hand shaking. He feels as though the very ground beneath him is shifting, like the structure is alive, reacting to his touch. Cobalt, standing beside him, growls low, his fur bristling. Ethan, breathless, voice a mix of awe and fear. This was meant for me? The air seems to hum with anticipation as the ground beneath them trembles, a warning that something has awakened a force far greater than they are ready for. The chasm shudders as the ground trembles beneath Ethan's feet. The ancient structure, its obsidian walls glowing with an ethereal light, seems to breathe, as if alive. The hum of energy reverberates through the air, sending a ripple of unease through Ethan's body. Cobalt, standing just a few feet away, growls low, the sound vibrating through the silence like a warning. Ethan's hand still lingers on the strange, glowing object on the pedestal, the pulse of its energy thrumming through his fingertips. The vision he saw earlier, those towering green-skinned humanoids and the massive blue-furred guardians, lingers in his mind, but it's fleeting, like a dream just out of reach. He feels an overwhelming sense of urgency, as if the very air around them is calling out, pulling him towards something greater. Ethan, whispering, voice shaking, this was meant for me? As soon as the words leave his mouth, the air changes. The light in the chamber flickers, casting long shadows that seem to twist and stretch unnaturally. The hum of the object intensifies, vibrating in Ethan's chest. His heartbeat quickens as he feels the room close in on him. The air is thick with power, ancient and dangerous, and it's overwhelming. Chivers, who had been standing a few paces behind, takes a step forward, his face pale and wide-eyed. Chivers, voice trembling, what did you just do, Commander? The energy readings, there's something happening. Before Ethan can respond, a loud cracking sound echoes through the chamber, followed by the deafening rumble of stone shifting. The walls around them seem to shake, and the floor cracks beneath their feet. Dust and debris fall from the ceiling, coating the ground in a fine, gray mist. A low, guttural sound begins to fill the chamber, resonating from the very stone beneath them. Ethan, alarmed, backing away from the pedestal. Something's happening. We need to get out of here now. But it's too late. The ground shakes violently, and the chamber begins to collapse, the ancient structure groaning as if it's waking from a long slumber. The air is thick with tension, the vibrations of the earth sending waves through Ethan's body. Cobalt, with his powerful, muscular form, stands firm, his eyes glowing with a bright, blue light. The creature's presence is commanding, as if it is the one in control now. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber crack open, revealing a hidden passage deep within the structure. From within the passage, a massive surge of energy floods outward, its brightness blinding for a moment. Ethan shields his eyes, his heart pounding in his chest. Ethan, shouting over the chaos, Cobalt, stay close. But Cobalt is already moving, his massive body cutting through the chaos with ease. The creature moves toward the source of the energy, the blue light from its fur shimmering as it grows larger with each step. Ethan, now desperate, follows, urging Chivers to keep up. The energy in the air grows heavier, more potent, until it's almost suffocating. The walls pulse with the light, and the sound intensifies, a constant hum that feels like it's coming from everywhere at once. Ethan feels a strange pressure in his mind, as though something is trying to communicate with him, something ancient and powerful. As they reach the source of the energy, they find themselves in a massive, open chamber. The floor is lined with more of the glowing obsidian stone, and at its center is a massive, swirling vortex of light. It twists and turns, the energy inside it surging with an otherworldly power. Ethan stands at the edge, mesmerized by the sight. It feels like the very fabric of reality is bending before him. Chivers, breathless, staring at the vortex. What is this? What did we awaken? Ethan doesn't answer. His eyes are locked on the vortex, feeling the pull of the energy as it reaches out to him. He can hear it now, a voice, deep and resonant, echoing in his mind. It's calling to him, urging him to step closer, to enter the vortex and embrace the power that lies within. The connection between Ethan and Cobalt pulses, stronger than ever. Ethan looks down at the creature, whose eyes are fixed on the vortex, glowing brighter with every passing second. The bond between them feels alive, more than it ever has before. It's as if Cobalt understands what's happening, as if he knows what they must do next. Without thinking, Ethan steps forward, reaching out toward the vortex. But before his hand can touch the swirling energy, a force pulls him back. He stumbles, disoriented, as Cobalt steps in front of him, growling low. The creature's presence is now overwhelming, its energy filling the air, and Ethan realizes this is not something he can do alone. Ethan, gasping for air, his voice hoarse. Cobalt. What are you trying to tell me? In that moment, the bond between them flares, and the truth becomes clear. This energy, this force, it's not just a weapon. It's a part of Cobalt, a part of the creature's very essence. And together, they can unlock its true potential. But the cost may be higher than either of them can imagine. The ground beneath them shakes violently once more, and the chamber begins to cave in. The walls crack and splinter, the ceiling crumbling above them. Ethan feels the energy around him intensify as the vortex begins to spiral faster, its pull growing stronger. Ethan, shouting above the noise, we have to stop it. We need to. But before he can finish, the energy surges. Cobalt steps forward, and with a mighty roar, the creature leaps into the vortex. Ethan's heart races as he watches the creature disappear into the swirling light, the connection between them snapping like a thread pulled too tight. Everything goes still. The chamber falls silent, the vortex flickering out of existence as Cobalt vanishes into the unknown. The room falls silent. The last echoes of the collapsing chamber fade into nothingness, leaving only the sound of Ethan's frantic breathing. His eyes dart around, searching for Cobalt, his heart racing as he processes the events unfolding before him. The storm outside has returned with a vengeance. The howling winds and the sharp crack of lightning cutting through the sky are drowned out by the ringing in his ears. The ground beneath Ethan's feet still feels unstable, as if the entire world is trembling in the wake of Cobalt's disappearance into the vortex. He steps forward, his boots crunching against the broken stone of the ancient chamber. His mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, questions, and fears. What happened to Cobalt? Why did it leap into that vortex? And what does it all mean for him, for them? Ethan, voice shaking, barely a whisper. Cobalt, where are you? His words seem to hang in the air, unanswered. There's no response, no movement, nothing but the ominous silence of the chamber. The energy in the air is thick and oppressive, as if the very fabric of reality is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. But what? Ethan takes another step forward, his hand brushing against the wall. The obsidian stone is still warm to the touch, the faint glow beneath the surface pulsating with life. He can feel that something is still alive here, something waiting. But what is it? A sudden rustling sound comes from behind him. His breath catches in his throat as he spins around, his heart racing. It's Chivers, looking pale and shaken but determined. He stumbles forward, his hands shaking as he pulls something from his bag. Chivers, breathing heavily, voice tight. Commander, you need to see this. I don't know what's going on, but this shouldn't be possible. Ethan's brow furrows as he takes the scanner from Chivers. The display is flickering, the readings erratic, but there's one constant, the energy levels. They are rising fast. And at the center of it all, the same signal. The same energy signature that had been pulsing from Cobalt. Ethan, eyes wide, realizing no, it can't be. The scanner beeps louder, as if confirming Ethan's worst fear. The connection between him and Cobalt is still there, alive, strong, undeniable. But now, it's different. The bond between them has evolved, taken on a new, more powerful form. The pulse of energy that once flowed between them now feels like a call, drawing Ethan towards something beyond the physical realm, something greater than both of them. As if answering his unspoken thoughts, the air in the chamber shifts, crackling with energy. The ground trembles again, and a low hum rises from the very depths of the chamber, vibrating through Ethan's chest. His hand reaches out instinctively, his fingers brushing against the stone. The bond flares within him, a surge of warmth, then cold, running through his body. And then, Ethan, shouting, desperate Cobalt. I'm here. I'm not leaving without you. The ground beneath his feet trembles violently, the vibrations intensifying as the chamber seems to come alive. A pulse of blinding light shoots up from the depths of the ruin, and Ethan is thrown back, his body crashing into the ground. He grits his teeth against the pain, struggling to stay conscious as the light envelopes him. His vision fades, and for a brief moment, he's weightless, floating between worlds. He can feel Cobalt's presence, not just beside him, but within him, a force that pulls him closer and closer. The bond between them is no longer just emotional, it's physical, spiritual, transcendent. In the space between moments, Ethan sees flashes, visions of a distant world, of green-skinned humanoids, silver-haired beings standing beside towering blue-furred guardians. The images are vivid and strange, yet they are familiar, their world, their past. The creatures, the temples, the bond, it all comes together in a single, overwhelming realization. He sees Cobalt, no longer the small, fragile creature he once rescued. The guardian stands before him, a massive, powerful being, its eyes glowing with the same ice-blue intensity that Ethan has come to know and love. The creature's presence fills the space, radiating strength and ancient power, its bond to Ethan now fully realized. The vision fades, and Ethan is pulled back into the chamber, the energy surrounding him dissipating into the air. His eyes snap open, and he gasps for breath as he struggles to sit up. Ethan, breathing heavily, voice full of awe, Cobalt. And there, standing before him, is the creature. It's no longer the small, fragile being he once cared for. Now, it's a towering figure, its fur rippling with muscles, its claws gleaming in the low light. The guardian's eyes meet his, and Ethan feels the bond stronger than ever. Ethan stumbles to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. He reaches out a trembling hand toward Cobalt, and the creature takes a step forward, its massive form moving with fluid grace. The bond between them is undeniable, a force that fills the chamber with an energy that hums in the air. But this is not just a bond of protector and protected. This is something deeper, something that goes beyond the physical world, beyond their understanding. Ethan knows it now. They are connected, not just by fate, but by something ancient, something that has always been meant to be. Ethan, whispering, voice full of wonder, we're connected, and together, we can do this. Cobalt's eyes glow brighter as it leans closer, its massive head resting gently against Ethan's chest. The bond between them flares once more, stronger than it has ever been. Ethan can feel the power within the creature, within himself, coursing through their shared connection. For the first time since he found Cobalt, Ethan knows that they are ready for whatever comes next. The chamber is alive with energy, vibrating with an intensity that makes the very air feel thick and heavy. Ethan and Cobalt stand together at the heart of the ancient ruin, the ground beneath them trembling as though the very earth is waking up from a long slumber. The connection between them has become undeniable, a bond that transcends space, time, and understanding. The energy in the chamber pulses with their every breath, every thought. The walls of the chamber, once dark and ominous, now glow with a soft, ethereal light. The obsidian stones seem to hum with life, their surfaces reflecting the growing power in the room. The air crackles with static, and the very essence of the place feels ancient, forgotten, yet now awakening, responding to Ethan and Cobalt's shared presence. Ethan stands motionless, his heart pounding in his chest, his breath coming in shallow bursts. He can feel the power coursing through him, the bond with Cobalt stretching outward, reaching beyond his own body. It's a sensation he can't describe, but it feels alive. And it feels right, like a part of him that he never knew existed, now awakened. The room begins to change, the light in the walls growing brighter as the energy builds. Suddenly, there's a deep, rumbling sound, something low, resonant, almost like a growl. Ethan spins around, his heart skipping a beat. The sound comes from deeper within the chamber, a force he can't yet see but feels pulling him toward it. As if responding to Ethan's thoughts, Cobalt steps forward. The massive creature's eyes are locked on the far end of the chamber, where the darkness gives way to something otherworldly. Ethan follows, every instinct telling him to move, to get closer. The ground beneath their feet shifts once more, a deep rumble echoing through the chamber. The walls seem to tremble in response, the pulse of energy growing stronger, faster. Suddenly, from the darkness, shapes begin to emerge, massive, towering figures, their eyes glowing with the same icy blue as Cobalt's. These creatures are like Cobalt, but larger, more powerful, more ancient. They are guardians beasts with the same blue fur, their forms rippling with muscle and strength. They move with a grace that belies their size, their glowing eyes locked onto Ethan with an intensity that makes his breath catch in his throat. Ethan, whispering, voice barely audible, these are the guardians from my vision, the ones I saw with the green-skinned people. The guardians step forward, each movement synchronized, as though they are drawn to Ethan and Cobalt. The bond between them seems to pulse with life, sending waves of energy through the room. Ethan feels the energy growing stronger, his connection to Cobalt intensifying. Suddenly, one of the guardians steps forward, its massive head bowing slightly. The movement is almost reverent, as if acknowledging Ethan's presence. The connection between them flares, the energy between Ethan, Cobalt, and the guardians amplifying, merging into something far more powerful than before. Ethan, astonished, his voice filled with awe, they know me. They recognize me. The guardian before him steps even closer, its eyes glowing brighter, as though the very essence of the creature is resonating with Ethan's energy. The creature's massive paw reaches out slowly, gently brushing against Ethan's chest. A surge of energy floods through him, a deep connection that binds him to the creature. For the first time, he feels as though he truly understands. He's not just an outsider anymore, he's one of them. Ethan, shakily, realization dawning, I'm one of you. I'm connected to you, to all of you. The other guardians step forward, each of them bowing in unison, their massive forms radiating power and strength. The air is thick with energy, the chamber alive with the pulsating hum of the connection. Ethan feels the weight of it, the responsibility, the power, the ancient knowledge that flows through him. Cobalt stands beside him, the bond between them stronger than ever. The creature's eyes glow with an intensity that matches Ethan's own energy. They are one, connected by something greater than fate. The other guardians surround them, their presence overwhelming, as though they are welcoming Ethan into their fold. In that moment, Ethan understands. This bond, this power, it's not just about him and Cobalt. It's about a greater purpose, a connection that ties them all together. The guardians, the ancient beings from Cobalt's world, are more than protectors. They are a force, a power that has existed for millennia, and now, Ethan and Cobalt are part of that force. The chamber begins to glow even brighter as the guardians lift their heads, their voices echoing in unison, a deep, resonant sound that reverberates through the very core of Ethan's being. The energy between them builds, until it feels like the entire room is vibrating with life. Ethan, to Cobalt, voice full of awe, this is what we're meant to do. This is why we're here. The energy reaches a peak, and in that moment, Ethan feels the bond fully activate. It's not just a connection, it's a transformation. He is no longer just Ethan, the human who found a tiny creature in a ruined chamber. He is part of something far greater. He is a guardian. But with this transformation comes a realization. The power of the guardians, the energy they wield, is not just a blessing. It's a burden. And the future of both his world and Cobalt's now rests on his shoulders. The guardians step back, their glowing eyes watching Ethan with a new understanding. The weight of their gaze is not one of judgment, but of recognition. He is their leader now, their bondmate. And together, they will face whatever comes next. The chamber falls silent again, the energy in the air still humming with life. But now, Ethan feels a sense of calm. He knows what he must do. He knows what the future holds. The chamber's energy is still crackling in the air, heavy with the weight of the transformation that has just occurred. Ethan stands in the center of the room, surrounded by the towering figures of the Guardians. Their glowing eyes remain fixed on him, their powerful presence overwhelming, yet not intimidating. There is a sense of reverence in their stance, a silent acknowledgement of his new role. Ethan's heart is still racing, but the panic from before has subsided. Now, there's only a quiet certainty that fills him, a sense of clarity that he hasn't felt before. He's no longer just a human on an alien world. He's part of something greater, a force that has existed long before him and will continue long after. The weight of the responsibility is immense, but Ethan doesn't feel burdened by it. He feels ready. Cobalt stands beside him, its once delicate form now a massive, imposing figure, its fur rippling with the same power that resonates through Ethan's chest. The bond between them is palpable, a deep connection that pulses with energy. Cobalt's ice blue eyes lock onto Ethan's, and for a moment, there's a wordless exchange and understanding that passes between them. Ethan, whispering to Cobalt, as if the creature can hear his thoughts, we're in this together. Whatever happens next, we face it side by side. The Guardians move in unison, their massive forms shifting slightly as if responding to Ethan's words. Then, one by one, they begin to bow their heads toward him, their silent acknowledgement a confirmation of his place among them. Ethan feels the bond solidifying between them, a mutual recognition of their shared destiny. But then, a sudden, distant rumble shakes the chamber, and the light flickers around them. The sense of power in the room is interrupted by a cold, foreboding energy that seems to come from nowhere. Ethan's heart skips a beat as he turns, his eyes scanning the chamber for the source. The air thickens once again, the connection between him and Cobalt pulsing with a sense of warning. Ethan's instincts flare to life, his senses heightened as the energy around him shifts. It's not the Guardians, their presence remains steady and strong, but something else, something far darker, is closing in. From the shadows of the chamber, a figure steps forward. A tall, imposing humanoid with green skin, wearing ceremonial armor, emerges from the darkness. His presence is commanding, and there's an unmistakable air of authority in his every movement. His piercing eyes lock onto Ethan's with an intensity that sends a chill down his spine. The figure raises his hand in a gesture of authority, and the Guardians immediately lower their heads in respect. Ethan feels a ripple of energy in the room, a tension that wasn't there before. The newcomer's eyes briefly flicker toward Cobalt, but it's clear that he's focused on Ethan now. The figure, his voice deep, commanding, I am Sovereign Talon, High Lord of Vidia. You are the human who has awakened the Guardians. Ethan doesn't flinch, but the weight of the Sovereign's words is not lost on him. The title of High Lord is not one to be taken lightly. This is no mere diplomat. This is a ruler, a leader, someone with vast power and influence. And his attention is now focused entirely on Ethan. Sovereign Talon, his voice cold, scrutinizing, tell me, outsider, why have the Guardians chosen you? What is it that you have awakened within them? And more importantly, what do you seek from us? Ethan stands tall, not backing down, but inside, a storm of thoughts rages. He can feel the weight of the question, the gravity of the situation. The Sovereign's presence is like a force in itself, and Ethan knows that this is a critical moment. How he responds will determine not only his future but possibly the fate of his people and Cobalt's. The Guardians remain silent, watching the exchange, their presence both reassuring and unsettling. Ethan knows they are waiting for him to make the right choice, to understand the true nature of this moment. Ethan's hand instinctively moves to rest on Cobalt's fur. The creature stands beside him, a steady presence in the storm of uncertainty. He can feel the bond pulsing between them, and the realization hits him with a rush, he is not just a leader in this moment. He is chosen, just as the Guardians are chosen. And he must stand firm in his conviction. Ethan, his voice steady, but full of purpose, I did not come here seeking power or control. I came here because I found someone who needed me. I came here because I was chosen, just as you were. And now, I stand with Cobalt, and together, we will protect this world. The room falls into an eerie silence as Ethan's words echo in the chamber. The Sovereign's expression remains unreadable, but his eyes narrow slightly as if considering Ethan's response. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then, finally, the Sovereign steps forward, his footsteps heavy against the stone floor. The Guardians shift slightly, their eyes fixed on the High Lord as he approaches Ethan. Sovereign Talon, his voice softer, but still commanding very well, human. You are bound to the Guardians, as they are bound to you. The bond you share is unprecedented. But understand this, your presence here does not come without consequence. You will be tested, not just by us, but by forces beyond your understanding. Ethan nods, meeting the Sovereign's gaze. He feels the weight of the challenge, the responsibility, but he does not flinch. The bond between him and Cobalt is stronger than any external threat. And no matter what trials lie ahead, he knows that they will face them together. Ethan, his voice unwavering, I'm ready for whatever comes next. The Sovereign nods slowly, his gaze lingering on Ethan for a moment longer before turning to the Guardians, who now stand at attention, their massive forms silhouetted in the soft glow of the chamber. Sovereign Talon, calmly, very well. You have chosen your path. But know this, your bond with the Guardians will not save you from the trials ahead. Only your strength, your resolve, and your understanding of what truly matters will determine the outcome. The Sovereign turns toward the chamber's exit, his footsteps echoing as the Guardians follow suit. Ethan feels the weight of his words, but he also feels something else, a fire burning within him. He is ready, not just to fight for Cobalt and the Guardians, but to fight for a future he has only just begun to understand. As the Sovereign and the Guardians disappear into the shadows, Ethan turns to Cobalt, who stands beside him, their bond stronger than ever. Ethan, whispering to Cobalt, voice full of determination, we're not backing down. We're in this together. And with that, the chamber falls silent, the hum of energy still pulsing in the air, as Ethan and Cobalt prepare for whatever comes next, whatever the Sovereign and the trials ahead will throw their way. As the storm settles and the mystery deepens, Ethan's bond with Cobalt only grows stronger, and so does the danger surrounding them. What started as a simple exploration mission has turned into a fight for survival, as Ethan and his newfound companion face forces beyond their understanding. The small, innocent creature he saved is now an unstoppable force, linked to him in ways that will alter the course of two worlds. But this is just the beginning. The true challenge is only starting. Ancient secrets, powerful enemies, and a bond that defies all logic are pulling them deeper into a web of destiny that will shape the future of the galaxy. Will Ethan and Cobalt be able to control the terrifying power they've unleashed? Or will they be consumed by it? This adventure has only just begun, and the road ahead is filled with even more secrets waiting to be uncovered. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss the next chapter in this epic saga. The journey with Ethan, Cobalt, and the Guardians has only just started, and the best is yet to come. See you in the next video, where the story continues.